Hello everyone, my name is Jesse White. This is my critical assignment for KIN550, Legal Aspects of Kinesiology. We'll just go ahead and jump right into it. For my facility selection and the background and rationale for that, I'm choosing the private gym setting. This is going to be a tight-knit community with pretty much local members that kind of know each other. And basing this off my background, prior I was a PE teacher and health educator, and then I joined the military where I'm working now as a JTAC, and I'm looking to transition that job over to the National Guard side and join my current squadron's human performance team. And from there, I'm going to work as a trainer, and it's really going to fit or be mostly closely related to that tight knit private gym setting. So that's my rationale for that. Moving into some of the risk management techniques and case studies that I focused on this course. I'm just going to jump right in with the Lund Bali Aerobics Plus. This is the case in 2000. So what happened here is we had a novice gym member. It was their first time coming to the gym. They had paid for their gym membership, came in, and under the supervision of the personal trainers that were in there, there was a minor injury that took place. And she sued the gym for a negligence case for a lack of supervision, for pretty much no one coming up and telling her, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And the biggest mitigation technique for this case right here, and the verdict of that case was obviously in favor of the gym because she had signed an informed consent disclosure form, which stated that she knew she was going to be working in that gym at her own risk. And really with that informed consent disclosure portion, this is coming from the guidelines by the National Athletic Trainers Association in 2017. For the gym management itself, this is pretty much upfront, the gym telling the individual trainer or client, here's what we can expect you to uphold and acknowledge. And again, training at your own risk, those inherent risks that are involved with the heavy equipment and the machinery. So a lot of times if we have pulls involved in gym situations, slippery floors, there's an inherent risk involved with that. So this form of mitigation right up front is going to protect both the gym itself and the individual, the client. As long as they're doing their due diligence and reading through that inherent risk sheet, they're going to know it's going to be disclosed to them what they can expect when they enter the gym. Moving on to the second one, this is Restai and Nestle Enterprises, or Restai versus Nestle Enterprises in 2006. Unfortunately, a client on their first training session suffered a heart attack, and this was under the direct supervision of a personal trainer. The issue in this case was there was no preliminary health assessment. There was no interview process done prior with the clinic or with the client, so that rap sheet or that history of their prior health condition was never addressed prior to them jumping in to the training program. And again, mitigation coming straight from the guidelines of the National Athletic Trainers Association. Having that health assessment is going to help you identify those personal and preliminary risks. It's also going to help establish that baseline and the goal sets of the individual. That way you know where they're coming from, what previous injuries or previous experiences they've had in the past, and how that's going to apply to your development of their goals. So that's a key, significant one with any gym. Kind of surprising that that didn't take place. And unfortunately, the client suffered a heart attack on their first session with the trainer. The last one for risk management, we have the Navigators Insurance versus First Mercury Insurance of 2020. And this is another unfortunate one. We had a incident where a client was on a stair climber machine doing their normal routine workout on a machine that they had been on several times before, and it unfortunately malfunctioned on them while they were in the middle of their workout. Trip, fell, there was some issues with the machinery, and the client being kind of entertained with themselves. And the clients not only suffered injuries, but they suffered permanent injuries from this incident. And the best mitigation for anything involving equipment is always having that routine equipment maintenance and the inspection of its function, and also how the clients are utilizing the equipment. So making sure that the equipment is being used and taken care of properly. A lot of times you'll see excessive sweat not being wiped up, and it could cause rust. Obviously, there's employers or employees that should be taking care of that and cleaning that up, but just making sure that the clients are cleaning up after themselves, making sure they're wiping down the equipment. A lot of times that goes a long way in helping keep that routine functionality adequate with the equipment, and also just the routine inspection sheets, going through the checklist, making sure everything's working like it should, everything's lubricated like it should be. Extension cords are put under guide mats; they're not just out left open where somebody could trip on them. Just those small little things can make a big improvement. Moving on. Next, we're going to talk about the employment laws. And the first study I had for this was EEOC versus body firm aerobics in 2006. And this was a case of sexual harassment and assault. So we had a subordinate who worked at the gym center prior to a new supervisor coming in. So they had a relationship with the rest of the staff, and the new supervisor that came in was harassing that subordinate. And no one was really saying anything about it until finally the subordinate came forward and made a formal complaint. And for this piece right here, I found this part interesting. But for mitigation, routine sexual harassment training, this piece by, excuse me for the name, Serino and Kawakami in 2021. They did a study on the deliberate expression and its effects on social perception. So pretty much anytime we're talking about those sensitive issues like sexual harassment, the small minor things that kind of snowball into the bigger offenses like sexual assault, a lot of times in the workplace, the more times there's deliberate expression of that being a bad behavior and creating that social perception that more and more people do not accept this behavior anymore, the better, the more that environment becomes a safe place for those individuals. So the more they're willing to talk about it and address it and confront it right then and there publicly, the greater that social perception grows, and that tendency to see sexual harassment kind of diminishes. So that was an interesting point made there. But a great mitigation tip is just that routine sexual harassment training, getting the individuals in there, going through the green. In the military, we have green dot training, so it's just our sexual assault prevention courses that we have to take, and just always kind of having that in the back of our minds, knowing like if we see something, we got to say something. Moving on to SETI versus Synergy Fitness 2018. So this was deliberate retaliation in the workplace. Another subordinate supervised situation. There was a supervisor who was actually making sexual advances on a subordinate, and there was obviously there was some harassment going on there and assault, but it never got to assault point. But the subordinate had tried to put in a formal complaint on that individual. It's obviously making them uncomfortable in the workplace, and because of that, that supervisor started to retaliate against them. Changed up where they could work in the gym. They moved them to certain areas and kind of like limited their ability. It was a personal trainer, kind of limited their ability to work with their clients, and just was doing everything they could to make it as hard as possible on that individual to do their job because of the denial of their advances. And a good mitigation for any of these one-on-one cases is a reporting. So a formalized reporting and investigation protocol. So and what this situation was lacking was a formal chain of command and a routing process for that complaint. So instead of that supervisor being able to jump ahead of that subordinate being able to jump ahead of their supervisor or jump above that supervisor's supervisor in order to get it routed appropriately, there was no chain possible or set in place for that. So it kind of just hit dead air until it snowballed and turned into a bigger issue. So having that established like documentation and that routing process is going to get that complaint elevated to the right set of ears, and it's going to make it more of a concrete thing than just a word of mouth issue, which was happening in this case. So having that established investigation and reporting protocol will help mitigate those cases like that just kind of going under the rug. Last one was the Batvia Park District versus Illinois Human Rights Commission. And this was racial discrimination in the pay rate. So pretty much there were two individuals. One was an African American and the other one was a Caucasian male, both male. And they were hired for the same job but making different pay. And the best mitigation for this I've seen throughout this course with the recruitment and hiring process is that blind recruitment. That's Ryan 2018. So, and what this does is it eliminates that appearance bias, um, which is just racial discrimination to a degree, but there's other subsets and factors within appearance bias, but this goes hand in hand with this case. And they were basing the individual's pay pretty much off of his appearance, one being a racial or African American, and then the other just being how he dressed. So eliminating that part from it, and then focusing on the establishment of like the qualification and their skill and their ability and eligibility for the job should help um, eliminate that racial discrimination. So application for anything with leadership or management and how it applies to law. The three pillars I've always lived by: compassion, accountability, and competency. So if you are compassionate and you lead thinking that your employee struggles are also your own struggles, automatically it's going to make you be accountable and make you want to be competent in your job. And being accountable, just be proactive. So being proactive, figuring out those mitigation techniques and how to prevent something before it happens is always better than trying to be reactive and trying to step back and make up for your mistakes. But at the same time, if there's a mistake made, be that confident leader that can own up, fess up, face up, and fix those mistakes. And to be competent, you have to be competent. So you need to know the law. You need to know the policies and protocols that are in place within your hiring process. Excuse me. You need to be aware of it. You need to abide by it, and you utilize your expertise and your prior experience to apply those law sets and those two other pillars into your training. You'll be an excellent leader for that. So for my faith integration, I have Matthew 7:12, Leviticus 19:18, and Romans 8:28. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do you even to them. So treating others how you want to be treated. A lot of legal issues stem from just that lack of emotion for the fellow man. So putting that love back into the picture and just knowing we're all here on the earth together, and we got to get through it, and be that Christ-like individual and just show that love to everyone right off the bat. If you're leading with that mind and that compassion, a lot of these issues are just kind of either going to fall to the wayside in terms of like what you could prevent. Leviticus, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Going back into that compassion, that love. We can all have disagreements and conflicts. That's just part of life. But we can do that from a loving manner. And we might not always agree with something or someone, but as long as we have that respect for one another, we can get through anything. And Romans, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Like I said, there are going to be times when our faith is challenged, and we're going to have to do things that go against our religion. Not everyone has the same moral compass, and there's going to be times, especially as a leader in a management position, where you're going to have to make those difficult decisions. And sometimes you have to separate, how you live your life from the understanding of other people might not necessarily believe the same things you do, but for the sake of the company or for the management, you need to, respect their decisions, respect their life, and as long as everything is from that love perspective and that compassionate perspective, both ends should be able to get through that process. Yeah, that was it. Had a lot of fun in this class. Here are my references listed out right here. I had a lot of fun in this class. It was actually a difficult class. I'm not too savvy when it comes to law, so it was a great learning experience, and I'm looking forward to just getting more into the semester. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. Thanks.